Stas, life is good. Life is awesome. I mean, the fact that you wake up, that's a blessing by itself. That's a gift. And then the question is, how are you going to use this gift? And what are you going to do with this gift of life that you received that day? I see so many people just doing the same exact thing, so many people wasting their time, or even just looking at other people and criticizing what they're doing and then putting negativity out in the world. Stop caring about them. Just be yourself. Make space for yourself. And the things that what's crazy is, I know that people are watching content. I know people are consuming content. And the funny thing is, sometimes they even pretend it's not there, they're not even watching it, And even though you know that they're viewing, you don't get 1,000 views by nobody watching them, right? So people are watching this stuff. So whatever content you put out there is going to be watched by someone. So you shouldn't, I'm actually happy that they're watching the content, and I'm not, how do you say it? Because it's kind of like, it's the whole principle of just doing things because you love doing them, and not listen to other people criticizing you for what you're doing, versus, because some of those people are just hurting. They're actually hurting inside because it's something they wanted to do or something they wanted to achieve, and they never had the guts to do it. They're afraid to fail. And guess what? If you're afraid to fail, you're failing. If you're just so afraid of doing something because you're gonna fail, the fact that you're not doing it is the failure. And knowing that, that's kind of should set you to act onto something, and versus keep on being passive and doing the same thing and expecting different results. You gotta wake up and act and do and execute and connect and engage. I think that the more you engage, which means meet more people. Today at church, we were at the coffee hour. This father comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, Roy, are you in IT?" I'm like, "No, I'm not in IT." He's like, "What do you do?" I'm like, I work in marketing." He's like, "What does it even mean?" I was like, "Well, I help people communicate, build their websites, write their social media, come up with advertising, all this kind of stuff." He's like, "So what does that fall? Is that IT?" I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not IT." He's like, "Well, my son is a network engineer. He's studying to become a network engineer at George Mason, but he's having a hard time finding an internship. So what do you recommend for him?" I'm like, "What do you mean you're having a hard time finding an internship? There's plenty of people who need a lot of work to be done. It's up to you to find where you want to engage." He's like, "Yeah, well, he tried and nobody was hiring him because he doesn't have any experience." And I was like, of course nobody's going to hire him because he doesn't have any experience, because nobody's going to hire someone who's not going to bring value to you, right? So I was like, the quickest advice I could give you, there's plenty of problems out in the world. Just figure out which one you want to solve and start solving them. You don't need a job to solve a problem. You don't need a job to volunteer for a nonprofit, help them with their, network, to build their, computer stuff. You can just do it without being hired. You can just go there. "Hey, listen, probably you don't have a budget for an IT person. Let me volunteer a couple of hours a week to help you build your network." And guess what? You have experience at this point, and that experience can be translated into your resume. So this way, when you apply next time for your next job, what's going to happen? You're getting hired.
That's what happened with me.
And it drove me crazy because the father is asking me this, and the son is sitting next to him, and I'm looking at them like, also on the other side, I'm so blessed to have that rationale and that awareness, and I'm so blessed that they're able to articulate those ideas into thoughts. He's like, "I watch your videos all the time." I'm like, "I'm happy, I'm glad." The reason I put them up because I want people to watch them to basically start thinking different, start engaging, start appreciating life. I think one of the blessings that God gave me is the ability to express my thought and ideas and engage others with the words that I use. Because the words are so powerful. If you change your words, you change your world. Your world will be different based on the words you change. And the thought you project and you think about is going to change the outcome of your life. So whenever you think about success, there's more likelihood success is going to happen if you think about it. For every task, when I was trying to fundraise my entire undergraduate and have no idea how to come up with the money to pay for it, I believed that I could do it. I 100% believed that I could do it, even though I had no idea how it's going to be done, but I did believe how I'm going to do it, and I started acting based on the idea that's going to happen. So, quick thought. if you wake up feeling down, change your words, say positive things, read a positive note. In my house, in my room, there are on my wall, there are positive quotes. There are things that makes me happy, because you gotta build those walls around you to keep your focus on the positivity. And most people they think this is stupid. Like, what, some people are gonna be watching this and thinking, oh, whatever, I know this. I'm like, yeah, you know what's the difference? But there's a story I always say. There's 5 frogs sitting on a piece of log in the river. 3 of those frogs decided to jump in the water. How many frogs do you think are left on the log? Take a guess. Probably you're thinking 3, right? Actually, no, it's 5. Because deciding is not doing. So, whatever you want to decide, it's not going to matter. What are you going to be measured on is the doing part.
Action.
The action part. If you're not doing, if you're not putting the actions, and if you're not changing your words by actually writing them down, if you're not reading a different book, if you're not thinking about a different scenario, like a different, outcome, your outcome is going to be the same. You're going to be in the same job, the same scenario for another 20, 30 years, wishing that your life has changed. A powerful story, a friend of mine, she's a doctor, and she works with a lot of terminally ill people. And the common factor, she told me, a lot of people, before they die, they have this phase when they start talking to their loved ones. And they're not afraid, they're not crying, they're not sad, they're just in communication with those people. And that moment, they call it's a sacred moment in their job. And then that moment kind of brings their life into reflection. And even a little bit before they die, they start looking at one of the corners in the room, and they start looking up and thinking about it and talking about it. And then a lot of those people, one of the common things they think about is the happiness they lived in life, the success they took, the regrets they make. We're gonna die. All of us, we're gonna die. And the fact, knowing this, gets me up every day, working so hard every day to make things happen. Because if you're not making things happen, someone else is. If you're not being talked about, someone else is. If you're not putting a piece of content that tells the world what you do better than anyone else, someone else is. So, put your stories out. Tell the world what you do best. And you're gonna tell me, oh, I don't know how to. I'm not good in front of the camera. I don't know what to talk about. Listen. Don't think about filming, think about documenting, think about the experiences you're talking about, writing it down, put a little blog up there, what you're working on, what problems you're solving. I'm sure someone else in the world is going through the same problems you're going through, and I'm sure someone's gonna read that at some point. And if not, you can just record it, like, you don't have to be a great writer. One of the things that I personally use, I record most of my thoughts on voice notes, and I send those voice notes to this website that gets them transcribed, and I get one of my friends who's a great writer to write the script for me. So, the reason why you can do something, it's you. Don't make up excuses. You could come up with anything if you actually want to. And if you want an excuse, I tell my staff and I tell my friends, I can find you a million excuses. But if you want to do something, you're going to find a way to do it. So it's up to the priorities you're going to put up. It's up to allocating your time on your calendar. So literally tonight, go on your calendar, block the time on your calendar, block different times for different tasks. Because if you're not blocking the time, you're not putting the effort, you're not going to get the results at some point. That's my takeaway today.